There are so many underplayed cards in the format, so let's look at some interesting cards for our commander decks. First up, Blood Frenzy. 2 mana, 1 in a red, instant. Cast this spell only before the combat damage step. Target attacking or blocking creature gets +4/+0 until end of turn. Destroy that creature at the beginning of the next end step. Ideally, we cast this when one opponent is attacking another opponent. We can buff that creature, which might lead to more combat damage being dealt to the defending player, but either way, the important thing is we're destroying the attacking creature. On the other hand, we could use this to remove a valuable blocking creature, because a lot of times people will have creatures on the battlefield that maybe they don't want to attack with, they leave them back to defend, and then when someone attacks with multiple small creatures, they just block with it. And now that creature that was hiding back to defend will be destroyed by Blood Frenzy at the end of the turn. This card is an interesting combat trick because it can lead to a lot of weird scenarios. Sometimes you can get a 2-for-1 depending on what creature was buffed, and no matter what, you're going to destroy the creature that was targeted with this at the very least. Patrician Scorn. 4 mana, 3 and a white, instant. If you've cast another white spell this turn, you may cast this spell without paying its mana cost. Destroy all enchantments. So this is a narrow board wipe on the surface. It only hits enchantments, and typically we want to hit creatures, and if we're going to hit enchantments, we want to also be able to hit artifacts with the same card. But the fact that we can cast it for 0 mana if we've cast another white spell is what makes it a bit more interesting. There are lots of powerful enchantments in the game, and being able to remove them is important, especially for free. And if we do pay 4 mana, we are overpaying for this effect, but that means we're using it to get rid of something that's so problematic that it was worth removing in the first place. Choice of Damnations. 6 mana, 5 and a black, sorcery, arcane. Target opponent chooses a number. You may have that player lose that much life. If you don't, that player sacrifices all but that many permanents of their choice. Okay, so a lot of people will disregard this card right away because it's a 6 mana sorcery. It also gives your opponents a choice, and they have ways they can play around it depending on the circumstances. And it costs around $12 to $13, but hopefully it's just one reprint away from that not being an issue. So essentially how this card works is your opponent chooses a number, and then you will either have them lose that much life if you're happy with the number that they chose, or they're going to sacrifice their permanents until they have that many permanents on the battlefield. For example, if your opponent chooses 10, you can have them either lose 10 life or sacrifice permanents on their side of the field until they only have 10 permanents. Now this is where your opponents can take away your choice in the matter. Say they only had 10 permanents and then they choose 10, your only choice is for them to lose 10 life, otherwise they're not going to have to sacrifice any permanents. Now we can get around this by casting it on someone who has a lower life total than they do permanents on the battlefield. And of course, we're going to cast this spell when it's most beneficial to us, when it's truly a choice of damnations for that player. Because remember, permanents include their lands. There's a chance that they might have to sacrifice a bunch of their lands as well. One of my goals is to win a game of EDH when it comes down to a one-on-one using this card. Now it's not going to outright win you the game, but it will put you in the position to win if used at the right time and everything lines up. Private Research. 1 blue mana, enchantment, aura, enchant creature. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put a page counter on this aura. When enchanted creature dies, draw a card for each page counter on this aura. So we want this card to stay on the battlefield to at least get 2 or more page counters on it, because we want to draw 2 or more cards when the creature dies. And if we have ways to proliferate the counters, then we can stack them up more than once per upkeep, so that's also a way to draw even more cards from this. And I know you're probably going to look at this and say, well, someone will just remove the creature by exiling it or something before I get to draw the cards. Well, guess what? If they do that, that's also a good thing, because if they're going to use their targeted removal so that you can't draw cards from Private Research, then it was well worth the 1 mana investment. Crosswinds. 2 mana, 1 in a green, enchantment. Creatures with flying get -2/-0. If you've ever played against a deck that has a bunch of flying creatures and you don't have any, you know how easy it is for you to just get eliminated whenever they feel like it, because you just get poked the entire game by essentially unblockable creatures. So for 2 mana, you can greatly reduce the amount of damage that a lot of the flying creatures are dealing to everybody. And there might even be some weird scenarios where you have flying creatures and reducing its power by 2 is beneficial in some way. Maybe you have some other card effects that care about power and toughness. So there's also other ways to use this card as well. Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on these cards and any other underplayed cards you enjoy playing. Until next time, thanks for watching.